Hello, I'm Jessica, and I usually talk just about solo games, but I wanted to go into another cool topic related to board gaming, and that's some of the different accessories and other types of things that I use that make gaming easier or storage easier, playing easier, whatever. But these are things that I use pretty regularly and just wanted to showcase some of those cool things that I found out there. So, first up, I am very much in favor of bindering when it comes to large card collections. So we own a lot of those living card games out there that have tons and tons of cards. So Arkham Horror, the card game, Marvel Champions, there's Ashes, which is both the original and the upgraded one. There's a lot of stuff. Oh, and Legend, what is that? L5R is what I know it as. Was it Legends of the Five Rings or Legend of the Five Rings? Yeah, I got that whole thing too. There's a lot. So I found for me the best way to do it is with binders. And I use, let's grab this, these giant ones from Case-It, which are, I believe they're 4-inch binders. They are 4-inch capacity. They have a whole zipper that goes around the whole outside. And inside, this one is actually slightly light because it doesn't contain too much at this time. But as I struggle, call this my comedy routine here. I use these UltraPro, what are these called? Binder pages that can actually fit, if I can lift it up, there's 9 different, places to put it on every page. So I got everything in here for Marvel Champions. And by everything, I mean, this is the binder that has just the villains and the side schemes. There's 2 other binders for the heroes and all the cards and everything. But I find this system works because I am someone who likes to see all the cards at once. Online databases are definitely the best way to go if you're going to be building decks or doing something cool like that. I am completely old school and I like going through pages and just seeing the different artwork. Sometimes I build decks based on flavor text or illustrations, which is also why I don't recommend ever using decks I make. They are not optimal, but they usually do something cool or at least look interesting. And these do take up a lot of space, and I know that binders are not for everybody. There's a lot of other ways to store and utilize cards much better. But if you're like me and like being able to see cards all at once and keep it sort of organized, that is how I do it. Villains have their own pages, so I can sort those alphabetically. I also do it kind of alphabetically in terms of other aspects that I can kind of go through. So this does mean with new packs, I usually have to do some fiddling about and moving things around, adding pages, but I like that. It's part of the process and just being able to organize, I don't know, that's part of the hobby for me. I mean, punching games and opening new games is fun for me too, just for that organization factor. Next up, and I don't have this quite set up yet, but these are called UberStax. And I don't have the bottom on here because I figured this is a larger one that I have, but there's a flat bottom, so this can actually just sit on the table, and you can fit cards on here to kind of put them in front of you and create sort of a nice display. You can make these as big or as small as you want. I have done some weird configurations. You can also do just like a very small display for like 2 cards. These are great because they are, and I don't know if it's easy to see here, but when they're on the base, it leans back slightly and you have these little kind of rails in the front which will hold the cards in place. I've also used UberStax for tokens because again, let's see if I can get how wide that is. It can usually fit some tokens in there if that works. They're fun to build with. They're a little fiddly in that I think what I've usually said is it kind of feels kind of like a prototype, not a finished product. I love them, but they don't always snap together easily, and they can sometimes, some of them get a little looser, and I kind of have to jam them together a little bit more. But I find that those are great for certain games where I'm going to have a ton of space that's needed. I can kind of build vertically to show off those cards and be able to see them a little bit better. Plus, these come in a lot of different colors. I have made rainbow ones. I have used just the black ones, just the yellow here. You can do anything. So also you can kind of like match it up to the game you're playing if there's a color scheme. I don't know. We do like table decor with board games. Is that a thing? So another thing, and this is what has definitely helped me with certain games that have tons and tons of components, are custom. This is not a Plano box. This is like a jewelry case. But being able to fit everything in like this is both great for setup, cleanup, and during play. I can just kind of open this up and go. Everything is right there. This is all the stuff that I use for Obsession, my #1 game, by the way, which at this point, I don't think I've made a video for, and I need to fix that soon. But this is where I keep all of those components. It's just easy to organize them. I use a couple of specific types. This is the smaller one. I have a bigger version that I'll use for bigger boxes that usually contain more components that I can split up. I just like being able to, again, we just pop it open, put it on the table, and it's ready to go. I have everything organized, and it saves setup time. Especially with solo, setup and cleanup can take up a lot of time because it's just you playing. So whereas if you have other people at the table, you can give them, multiple bags and say, here, can you shuffle this deck? Could you please hand these out to players? If it's just you playing solo, that can get a little tedious at times. So being able to save time and really get into the game as quickly as possible is definitely beneficial and great. What else do I use? Actually, we should have shown this before, but this is called an UberTrayz, or UberTrayz with a Z, because you got to have the Z, right? Made by the same company that made UberStax. These ones are just kind of like token trays, and as you can tell, I'm clearly playing Marvel Champions at the moment. But I think it's a little bit hard to see here, and I don't unfortunately have, and of course I didn't grab an empty one, but hold that thought for a second. It can hold tokens like this, and the important thing, I'm gonna make a mess, but nobody knows. This is what it looks like empty. It's split down the middle here so that you can actually have 2 separate wells, but that is not too deep, or too high, I should say. So if you want to use this for, like how I had all those tokens of one type in here, it kind of spreads around, but is, easy to get to everything. I really like these, and they also have that kind of these pegs almost. So these can actually connect to UberStax. I've made it where I have an UberTrayz somewhere in the middle of it, so I can kind of keep my resources together, plus put a card display around it, or have tokens plus cards around it. It doesn't work in every case. It really depends on the game and how many components are needed for it, but I find that to be pretty useful. I definitely use these trays more than these stacks, just because it's easy to just dump them out there and use whatever. I have a lot of them though. I will say I probably need at least 3 for most games. Some of them I've had to use like 6, so, whatever works. So back to kind of unorganization, I use these UltraPro deck boxes for a lot of cards, and this one's empty at this time, but you kind of get a sense of how many cards can fit in there. And it closes neatly. I use these in game boxes where I don't want to just put a large, especially for a large deck of cards that is this thick, finding a bag that will completely close over and not have all this extra bag room is kind of tricky. So these are really useful because it protects the cards. It's not I wouldn't call it a solid box. You can kind of squeeze it a little bit, but it's hard, so it'll protect from, everything else around it. Good enough. The one thing I won't mention in this video, could be controversial, I do not enjoy sleeving games. Which, nothing against it. We actually, I think in the side of this video over there, where is it? The very end, in this region, next to Cascadia, on the shelves, there's a bunch of sleeves there. Usually you have a household that either sleeves games or doesn't sleeve games. I live in a split household. I do not like sleeving. My husband enjoys sleeving a lot of games. Apparently, I'm better at sleeving cards, so even though I'm not a big fan of it, I'm the one who will sleeve games. Very rarely, though. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a discussion for another time, though. Let's get back to what I actually use for gaming. So let's go around the side here. And here, really, total proof that I'm playing Marvel Champions. But I use these deck holders. These were from Etsy. And they're really nice because they have this space again for like the draw deck, and then you can put discards kind of back here. You can see how much you can fit in there. And I think you can see it on here. It might be a little bit tricky, but it's leaning back. So like if I pick this up, it doesn't just go flying all over the place. I literally have to like aim it to knock cards around. So this is easy to move around a table if I need to. And it just helps, again, when I have so many card decks out there, just to keep it organized. It also saves space again because the discards go up here. I can't use it for everything because, again, this discard area isn't enormous. But these are the Marvel Champion cards. And yes, I will say, if you want to sleeve cards, these do fit sleeved cards of this size. I think you can kind of see that there's that whole edge. If I go edge to edge, there's plenty of room in there for sleeved cards. And I don't want to talk about sleeved cards anymore, though. I'm done. I think the last one that I will talk about is a little bit different, especially if you do print and plays, or if you kind of laminate certain game sheets or do something. This is my go-to for, these are wet erase markers by Staedtler. And these are Lumo color, non-permanent. There's actually some correctable ones which are similar, and they have like a little eraser type thing on one end. Those are more dry erase though. I like my wet erase markers. Again, that's another discussion, dry erase versus wet erase. But these have worked really well for me. I don't use them a ton because I have not been playing a lot of print and plays recently. But when I do, these are great. I've actually done a couple tests over the years with like, what's the best wet erase marker out there? And these definitely are it. I will note though, if you are using wet erase markers, do be careful of the colors kind of in the red, orange, and potentially purple region. I have found that those are very apt to stain out of any other color. If you wash things right away, because wet erase markers is more of a washing than just an erasing type of situation. But if you get that pretty quickly, it's good. But usually if you have in here, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, is there one missing? There is. The black marker's missing because I am using it for something. The brown one is great too. But yeah, it's just, and it's nice to have those colors because sometimes I like having some fun. Other times I'm just like, get me a basic color. I just want to play this and mark off my sheet. So that is everything. Most of it, I shouldn't say everything, I'm sure there's more that I use, but that's a lot of stuff that I use. If you have any suggestions or other things that you use for organization, for playing games, for saving time, or just making it easier, feel free to share in the comments because I'm always on the lookout for things that make gaming, especially solo gaming, a little bit easier. So as always, thanks so much for watching and take care. Bye!